Rev up your engines! YZ said, I just read the window sticker on the Toyota that said subscription required. Well, you're talking about if you want to start your car from outside, push the button and your car starts when you're not in the car. Toyota decided they were going to start charging money for that service. But that might have been an old sticker because recently they got so much backlash from their customers that they're scrapping that whole thing and they're not going to charge a subscription. And I made a video about that before they had reneged on the deal and said they weren't going to charge a subscription service on it because, let's face it, let's say you buy a new 4Runner and it's like $50,000. I find it rather an insult. You gave the company 50 grand that they're going to charge you 100-something bucks a year to use one of the services of the car. It is kind of disgusting when you think about it. Fans got so mad at them that they retracted and said, oh, that was a mistake. Obviously it was a mistake. It was a mistake they said they were going to do it and they pretended they didn't. It was a mistake that it came out they really weren't going to do it and somebody made a mistake. No, obviously they were planning on doing it, but their mistake was realize that their customers are paying a lot of money for their vehicles and trying to jive them for 100-something bucks a year was kind of sleazy, so they backed up on it from what I've read. Cecil Hedgepeth said, I never owned a car with lifters that weren't clicking on V6s. Well, yes, they are making them cheaper than they have. The V8s had less strain on them. They wore out a lot slower than the V6s do, so they make a lot of noise. Plus, they're making cars a lot cheaper than they used to, and they're a lot louder than they used to be. I mean, if you saw that video I made with that supposed Ram little delivery truck, it said Ram on a ProMaster on the outside. It was actually just a rebadged Fiat van. The thing had like 7,500 miles. It was already burning a ton of oil, and the engine was loud as can be because they're just making them like crap, especially in Italy. These Italian engines are junk. They're loud before they even get worn out. When they're brand new, they're loud. You're better to get a car that doesn't have lifters like a Toyota. They use stainless steel shims on most of them, and those things can basically last forever. They might make a little noise when they got 300,000 miles, but they still run perfectly fine. Well, here's an email from one of you viewers showing that, yes, indeed, Nissan makes crap. Hi, Scotty. My name's Rafael Suarez. I'm a huge fan of you. So many issues with my Nissan Altima. I said to my wife, I got to get these Nissan crooks off something. Sure enough, I sued them because of my headlights not being able to see at night. I won. I already sold this car for 13 grand with 94,000 miles, and I'm getting 5 grand extra from Nissan because of being the leader of the class action lawsuit. I ended up getting a total of 18 grand for this amazing pile of junk, and I went out and bought a RAV4. Thanks for all your advice. Now, he was lucky, still in his pandemic pricing of used cars, that he got so much money for the used car, that he got 13 grand for that pile of junk when he sold it as a used car, but then he also got 5 from the class action lawsuit, so he ended up getting 18 grand total, which is phenomenal for a pile of junk like that. And he realized he got a RAV4 used instead. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just basically showing you what I know. The problem today is these corporations don't care. They sell you something that's bad, they'll just laugh at you, right? You have to take them to court to get that 5 grand, right? We can all get even with them by telling me the problems that are out there, by me telling the problems that I see as I work on them. So you don't buy the things in the first place. That's the best revenge you can get against any of these corporations is don't buy their products. They make crappy products. Don't buy them. Do you really want to get involved in going to court because you bought the wrong car? No, nobody does. You want to get a car that runs and lasts, and you can ride around in it for years and years and years, right? If you have any more of your own, hey, email it to me. I'll share it with everybody else. We're all in this together. ND Moody 81 says, I got an 02 Toyota Corolla. I paid $1,400 for 160,000 miles. It uses 1 quart every 500 miles. Is it my valve stem seals? Well, it could be lots of things, but if you really want to know what it is, very simple test. You have a wet and a dry compression test done on your engine. The dry one you do first. You take the spark plugs out, use a compression tester, crank it over like 5 times, read what the gauge says, do it for all 4 cylinders. Then you put a teaspoon of oil in the cylinder. Then you do a compression test again. You do it for all 4. The compression will barely go up at all. Your valve stems are bad because that doesn't seal compression. So they would stay pretty much the same. Go up just a little because the oil takes up a tiny bit of space, right? If the compression went up a lot on each cylinder, that means the piston rings are worn. Because the oil, when you just pour it in and just crank it with it not starting, will seal it better if the piston rings are worn. So do a wet and dry compression test, and you'll see. And if it doesn't lose the compression, yeah, it's the valve seals, and it's a real expensive pain in the butt to replace them. You better just keep adding oil as it burns it out. Rock and Rob says, hello, Scotty. I love everything you do and say. A long-time watcher. Can you answer your statement about fuel? You say you use good fuel, not the cheapest. Great. However, the same truck fills most stations. Well, to some extent, but realize what shape the station is in. If it's an old clunker station, the guys don't check to see if there's water in the fuel, contaminations. The good ones did. When I was a kid and started working at my father's gas station at 14, every morning we'd get up when we opened up before 6 in the morning. We'd open up the gas tanks. They had big old tops you'd unscrew, and we had this giant yardstick. It wasn't a yard. It was like 20 feet tall, and we stuck it in with a little green paste that measures water. If it changed color, you had water in the tank. And when you did, it had to be pumped out. Well, these guys never do that anymore because they have to pump it out and they lose that. They don't get reimbursed for the stuff they pump out. Plus, it's a pain in the butt getting rid of the stuff because it's water and gas mix and you can't just dump it. If it's a crappy station, they don't maintain it, you can get water and the gas. You can have problems. So you want to use a quality station. Now, yes, most areas, there's only one refinery and they refine the gas for everybody. And then theoretically, Exxon puts in a different additive than Shell, Mobil, I'll put different additives in it, right? But you still want to use a quality station. Guys might not maintain it, and then you're SOL if you get bad gas and you have problems. Robert says, what do you think about rotors from a salvage yard? Well, look at them. See if they look okay. Most cars going down the road, the brakes work fine, and it gets in a wreck. Or if the body just rotted away, but the rotors aren't rotten, nothing wrong with it. But if you're going to do that, bring a vernier caliper with you. And that measures how thick the rotor is. Move it all around the rotor to make sure it's the same thickness. Because if it's warped, you just bought warped ones. And it's easy to measure, or if you have, fancy micrometer, but they cost a bunch of money, the fancy micrometers. A vernier caliper works just as good. But then you make sure the whole thing is that same size. And if some aren't, and there's big gaps, and others are tighter, they're warped, and then they'll buy them. It's an easy thing. You can get a vernier caliper. I got one from Amazon the other day. I think it was $12 or something. Or if you want a micrometer, a good one's going to cost a lot of money. Yes, the world is officially upside down. It's beyond comprehension. Now, Tesla, the average cost to produce a Tesla is $36,000. Of course, they're bragging to their investors, look, we're a profitable company, blah, blah, blah. Back in the day, the manufacturers never wanted you to know what it cost them to build their cars or washing machines or whatever, because you'd see they're making too much profit. He's saying it's 36 grand. I've never seen anybody get a Tesla for really less than $50,000 if it was a halfway decent one, and I've seen people pay $140,000 for one. And if the average cost to produce them is just $36,000, they're ripping their customers off. Why would they ever want to brag about that to see the public, look, he's making them cheap? Sure, it shows by the quality, but you don't want them to know how cheaply you're making them. Back in the day, my father's day, when he ran a gas station, the whole thing was the guys who ran gas stations, they'd have a nice car for their wife, and they had a crappy car that they took to work. If people went in his garage and saw, hey, old man Kilmer, he's driving a Cadillac. He's ripping people off. He charges too much money to fix cars. Don't go there. Go someplace else. The world's upside down now. They're bragging. Oh, it only costs us this to make the cars, and then they charge a small fortune for them. But I guess no one cares these days. They don't think of the ramifications of anything. He's trying to brag to the shareholders. Look, we're making more money. Buy my stock. Buy my stock. Hey, we're ripping our customers off. And eventually, guess what? People will stop buying the things. Ultimately, no matter what anybody might think, in a capitalist society like ours, prices of stuff are what drives it. Throughout the history of automobiles, on average, always, the biggest seller is the lowest price model a company makes. If he's bragging he can make them cheap, maybe he should start charging less instead of every month or so. It seems he's raising the prices of the things. Don't make any sense to me, but hey, who am I? Lebu says, Scotty, is a Honda Shadow a reliable motorcycle? Oh yeah, the customer bought a used one years ago with 50,000, got over 100 and it still went. Honda makes excellent motorcycles. They made motorcycles before they made cars. Their first car, that goofy little Honda they brought over here, had a 2-cylinder 595cc motorcycle twin air-cooled engine that Honda made in it. They didn't have a car engine, it had a motorcycle engine. Honda makes very reliable. All their motorcycles are quite reliable. Always been a motorcycle company. There's nothing wrong with buying one of those, but if you take my advice, always buy a used motorcycle. They're dirt cheap if you price around, because generally they're toys. Some people get one, it scares them. They're so fast they sell them cheap. Or they get married and the wife's having a kid and she says, get rid of that motorcycle, we need a 4-door car. We don't want you killing yourself on that motorcycle. We can take care of the kids that are coming up. So you can often get a fantastic deal on used motorcycles. I've never bought anything but used motorcycles my whole life. I'm driving a Triumph now. If I wanted to buy a brand new, it's $17,500, right? A lot lot of money. I paid like $6,500 for mine with 12,000 miles on it. You always want to buy used in motorcycles. They're a lot easier to check out in cars. There's not much to check out. They're kind of small. You can see if anything's wrong just by kind of looking at them and driving them. M. Sean 203 says, let the cat out. Well, the cat was immune, but that's just the door under the staircase. It's just a closet. We let the cat all the time. Cat is a cat door. But unfortunately, it snowed last night, so it didn't go out. And now it's 20 degrees outside. She's not going out now. Cats are very particular about when they're going to go out, when they're going to come in. But they always think they want to go out, so they're always crying at doors. Then you open the door and they look at it and they turn around and walk away. Or they start licking themselves. That's how cats are. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.